Woo! Hey y'all, hey. Okay, so tonight, it is not your typical drinking and planting. There is drinking going on. Yep, there's plenty of like vodka and orange juice going on here. But this video is actually about my interview with a traveler. So tonight I will be interviewing my sister. And you can check this video out on my channel as well as hers. It is called Defiant Darling. That's Defiant Darling. And you can check her YouTube channel out. If you're interested in what life is like for the van life, the tiny home living, the traveling life, if you're interested, because it's a huge movement that's going on right now, then yeah, please watch this. Watch this. And grab you a drink and some snacks, because yeah, I filmed a sitcom or at least a quick interview, but it is about 30 minutes long. And, I say, please check it out, enjoy it if you've ever been curious about it. If not, hey, that's fine. I'll see you next time. There will be some plants in my next video. And in this one, they're all in the background. So they'll be there for you to see and cheer on. But hey, if you don't want to watch it, that's cool. Go ahead. I also uploaded another video tonight as well. And that is some repotting with some of my new plant hauls. So hey, enjoy that one. But in the meantime, let's get to the interview with Darling, an interview with a traveler. Darling is what I consider a world traveler. She doesn't do it by the conventional means that we know.
Nothing in my life is conventional.
So today I'm just going to ask her some questions that are on my mind, and later on we'll ask some of your questions.
And we'll decide whether or not this is going to go public after we review the video.
Let's not. One commentary. So, Darling, let me start off with the question that everybody asks. What made you want to do this?
The short answer is, when I was 15 years old, I always wanted to travel. And I decided that instead of going to college right away, I wanted to spend a year and travel across country. At that time, it was on an Amtrak, and I just wanted to travel all across the U.S. and see this great country of ours. Had a kid when I was 17, took parenting seriously, and decided to defer my traveling aspirations. But once my kids successfully launched into the world, I rekindled that thirst for travel, and so that's why I travel now. It's just in me. It's just who I am, who I decided I wanted to be as a teenager. Forgive me.
So, tell us about your first travel experience after you rekindled. Now, I'm sure you've done vacation time. We take the kids to Disney's and we do all of that stuff. But this is you out on your own for the first time after you have prolonged your traveling experience. So now you're doing this your way, on your terms. So tell me about the first trip, or rather yet, tell me about the first place that you consider this begins my traveling experience.
It'd have to be after I bought my RV, the Defiant. My influences were people that were about 10 or so years older than me that had the same sort of hippy-dippy mentality. And it was something about being a vagabond and living on the road. And you hear people say all the time as a joke, I'm going to buy an RV, I'm just going to throw away my career, and I'm just going to travel across country. And I said, I'm going to actually do that. But I know that I'm neither a trust fund baby or on Social Security or have some sort of passive income.
So that brings up a very interesting point. How old were you when you started, and how old are you today?
My youngest was 18, so I had to have been, do the math really quickly, 41 when I did it. But I got a job working as a parkie in Yellowstone National Park. It was a seasonal position because it's not open all year round, and they offered free RV spaces to their employees, and so I said, yes, this is the job for me. I had my rig. I drove from Maryland cross country to Wyoming. I got to live the life on the road while I was doing it, and I got to acclimate myself living in a tiny space in my RV in Wyoming. That's what I consider to be my first real traveler experience.
Well, okay, so you're here, you're in Yellowstone, you're living your traveling experience.
Yes.
Of course, you met some interesting people, and I'm just gonna stay focused on the actual traveling and of it all. But I do have to ask, from Yellowstone,
Right.
do you have any travelers or campers that you are still in contact with today?
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. My dear and closest friend was someone that I met when I arrived in Yellowstone. Oddly enough, she's 20 plus years younger than me, but the same traveler mentality. And she and I met in Yellowstone, and she is, like I said, 20 plus years younger than me, but she had the same traveler mentality as I have. And since I've worked in that job, she and I have met up someplace in the country. Ever since then, at least once a year, we get together, and it's a great friendship.
What's your name?
Katie
Katie.
McCracken.
Katie McCracken.
McCracken.
We got a little bit of the Irish.
Because she's Irish.
Yeah,
She's Irish, yes.
Lord knows. So maybe you and Katie someday can travel to Ireland together.
Yeah. Well, no, I'm going to talk her into coming to visit me on my next adventure in Mexico and Central America. I'm going to talk her into it.
Okay.
Fingers crossed.
Fingers crossed. So we look forward to see that. So now you told us how you have this intimate friendship with Katie McCracken.
McCracken.
And I think that's absolutely wonderful. So, but this is in your RV. You don't have the Defiant now.
No, I don't.
So, what happened in between the Defiant and now?
So we are influencers, right? And I am a big YouTube person, obviously. And some of the full-time RVers that I had started following had made the transition to sailing because I was feeling the same thing they were. I'm maxed out on, traveling in the U.S., traveling on land per se in my RV. And so I was following a couple of people that bought sailboats, that may or may not have ever sailed before and taught themselves or went to formal schools and learned how to sail and continued their travels off continent. So I was, inspired by that. Now, I do things on a very budget-wise way, and so I couldn't afford to buy my own sailboat. But what I discovered that there was such things as crewing on someone else's sailboat. So after looking into that, I found myself faced with an opportunity to crew on someone's sailboat who was doing a sail around the world. I joined him when he was in the South Pacific, and so I sold my RV because I was determined I was going to do this, and bought a one-way ticket to French Polynesia and sailed through French Polynesia, the Cook Islands, American Samoa, just the South Pacific in general.
Wow.
And said I wanted to continue my travels that way, which I consider myself to be very lucky because those are places that you can't even travel on a plane. You really do need a ship to be able to see some of those small remote islands.
Okay, and now the great thing about that is listening to this part of it is like, I feel like this is going to be an ongoing series. Now, today, fans, unfortunately, we're not going to get into the adventures on the high sea, but I promise you we will. But what I find so fascinating is I just love the idea of how you decided that I'm going to sell my RV, my Defiant, my baby,
My home.
and you're gonna do this. And I was like, I have to know, because I would be terrified. Were you afraid?
Of course. Fear is always there. There is always that question, will I survive this choice? But what I've come to reconcile with myself, that fear is not enough to stop me. Fear is just something to give me pause to make sure I have taken enough steps that I am comfortable enough with the level of safety that I require. And I was, in making that decision, comfortable enough with how much safety this situation would provide for me that I was like, okay, yeah, I'm afraid. Fear is real, but it's not going to stop me.
Now, how does your family take this news? One minute you're driving across the country, next thing you're sailing across the world. How does your family receive that?
Specifically, I cannot say, but I know in general that I got a lot that was rooting for me. That was just like, well, go ahead with your bad self. Then, if this is what you're going to do, and I think it's just the basis knowing that I'm intelligent enough not to put myself in harm's way, and my family knew that. And I think at this point, I kind of developed a reputation as being kind of adventurous and, grabbing a handful of caution and throwing it into the wind. So it was just like, okay, this is her being her.
Okay,
Yeah.
So yeah, okay. Well, I'm glad you had that family support there. Although I do think there's something else. We're going to get into that. We'll call that, traveling and the family. And that'll be a separate portion of our interviews. Okay, but for now, so we're on the high sea. We're doing this
High
big
seas.
adventures. We traveled the South Pacific. But yet, you're here in South Carolina.
Yes.
So, so how did we go from traveling the South Pacific? What's the next step after that?
Well, family events happened. I needed to regroup. I needed to settle myself back in, rekindle some relationships. I needed to feel grounded with my family because travel and extensive travel makes you appreciate the connections you have because you're always in someplace new, you're always around people, and for me, life is community, and the community that I know that I started out with is my family. So it was important for me to reconnect. The other side of it is because I'm not financially independent, I always need to come back to my home country so I can earn a living to fund the next set of adventures.
Oh, wow, that's interesting.
I wish I could continue, continuous travel, but the thought is money always will run out. Sometimes sooner than you would expect. But so you always have to come back to your base and be able to earn more finances. And so the luxury of it is that I have friends and family where I know I can rely on the people in my circle and say, okay, I just need a shelter. I need a safe place to land while I earn more money to be able to travel. I did some international travel in between the sailing and being here in South Carolina. But the fact of the matter is I wanted to spend time with family and I needed to earn some money to fund the next trip.
Okay, so we're going to take a quick break and we're going to so thank you everybody. We're back and we had to refreshen our drinks, we're back.
Cheers.
Because this is interview with Darlene with Drinkin and Plantin. So, we're back and Darlene left us off knowing that she had done some in-between traveling. So I'm curious, between the Pacific Ocean and South Carolina, the American Samoas, and you said you did a little international travel. So where did you go?
I went back to Asia.
Okay.
And I love Asia, specifically Thailand. More specifically, Chiang Mai in the northern part of Thailand. I feel like Bangkok is overrated. If you want the true Thai experience, go to northern Thailand and hit up Chiang Mai. But yeah, I was there for 2 months.
2 months, and now, was that shortened than what you normally do?
Yes, it was. My intention was to be there for 6 months, but I shortened the trip to 2. Again, family and the pull and the necessity to do some reconnecting was the overwhelming, theme of it all and what brought me back a little bit sooner. But it also, in a side note, helped me reevaluate the type of travel that I wanted to do and how much time I want to spend in one location.
Now, when you say reevaluate, does that mean that although you did cut your trip short in Chiang Mai, that when you say reevaluate, that means when you explore these countries in the future, you may not stay as long as 2 months?
Absolutely. I don't even think at this point it's a may. I feel that I had been introduced more to the backpacker lifestyle. And that, backpackers tend to spend really short periods of time in places and they are more constantly on the move than for me what I intended to do and just kind of be like immersed in the culture of an area, and I figure the only way you're going to know it is to be there for an extensive period of time, like months. But at the same time, I find myself itching, wanting to travel someplace new after, say, like a month or so. So it did help me reevaluate that maybe I don't want to be in a specific city in a country for the entire 6 months. I may want to be away from home, meaning the U.S. for 6 months, but I don't want to be in one designated spot.
Right, you want to travel within the country you in. So maybe it's...
Or surrounding countries,
Right.
because what I found with the backpackers, especially that I met there in Thailand, is that because the countries are so small, they're the size of U.S. states, it's just as easy to go to Cambodia, to go to Laos, to go to Vietnam, to go to Malaysia, because they're literally, so close and inexpensive to travel to. I definitely would not want to do 2 or 3 days in one location, is what I found with most backpackers. Like a week would be the longest they'd stay. But what would be wrong with traveling to Vietnam and staying there for 2 weeks, and then traveling to Laos and maybe staying there for a month, still being away from home for 6, but just not being in one designated spot? So I've kind of reevaluated my travel style and said, yeah, I want to do more movement in a region instead of just staying in one city. You know what I mean?
Yes, I do. And it sounds like to me that you have really are starting to fine tune your traveling.
Exactly. Yes.
Yeah, and that's great. But I have to be honest with you. I mean, you're not what we would consider of the new 21st century. You're a typical thing. Like it's obvious that you're not a millennial. Well, maybe not obvious, but you're not a millennial.
Black don't crack, but I feel you.
Holla at your girl.
I feel you.
Anyway,
Yes.
So you're not a millennial. Mm-hmm. You and I are what we would call Generation X. So so right now we have the baby boomers out here for essential
because they're
finance.
retired.
They're retiring and they're moving on, and but then we have a lot of the millennials are out here doing this,
finding themselves in their early 20s. So I'm going to
Right.
backpack Europe. And I'm going to do this.
So how do you define yourself? I've heard you use the term backpack. I know that you've been labeled as a minimalist or a naturalist, and so if I needed to put what you do out, and I don't want to label you per se, but what do I want to call someone that is a Generation X that's out here saying, I'm not doing the things that's always been. I am doing this now new, and I want to do this traveling thing. What do I call that generation that is emerging with these millennials? And maybe it's a fad for them, but with Generation X, they're sort of
It's a
sticklers.
choice.
They're sticklers. Like once we decide to do this is what we're doing now.
Yes,
It's
yes.
not something that's going to fade
Yes.
away. So what would you call someone like yourself?
Defiant.
Ah!
Defiant. Because what I find, especially in my travels, that I am in a 20-year age gap. I'm 20 years older than the people I find doing this, or 20 years younger than the people that I find doing this same lifestyle. Most people in this 40, 50 age group, they're still in the grind. They're still working their careers. They're still, raising their kids. They're still paying their mortgages, trying to build their 401ks. But for me, it's just like, okay, I am going to thumb my nose a little bit at what the status quo says, what is typical for a woman of my age to be doing. And so I decided that this is my dream and I'm not going to defer it. I'm going to figure out a way to still be able to earn a living and contribute to my society, pay my taxes, and do all of those things like all of my contemporaries are doing. But I'm not going to wait 20 more years till I actually can live and fulfill my dreams. I'm doing it right now, and I think I've struck a comfortable balance between being able to be fiscally responsible enough to care for myself in a way that I'm comfortable with and still be able to live my dreams. So I am defiantly darling.
I actually love that, and I think that is tremendous. That is so much better than the naturalist, the millennial. You're just like, I'm going to sum up my generation who decides to do this with me. We're defiant
Yes.
of tradition.
Yes.
that was the same old that, and that's a hard shame for. And I'm only speaking for Generation X because that's what I am. That's what you are. And it's like that's very hard for us because we're setting our ways. You know, we're the generation where no one had any idea what we were going to do.
Right.
But when we decided to do it, that was it.
Right.
So
and you stuck with the choice that you made, you know, early on in life. But I think the benefit that Generation Xers have is that we understand the dedication and you know, the benefit of working hard, choosing a career path and staying on that and waiting to reap our rewards in retirement. We have that, you know, example by the baby boomers.
Yes, but we don't want to wait to retire.
Exactly, and I think
we want to retire now.
Exactly, because we have the same equal amount of influence from the millennials going, well, we're going to push the envelope. We're not going to follow by these traditional rules. We're going to live, you know, van life or in, you know, tiny homes or something like that. We're going to live our dreams now. And it's just, so we're like in between those two. And that's what I mean when I say I kind of struck that comfortable balance between the two, because I feel like I understand what hard work and dedication will get for you. And I understand what living your dreams will do for you. And so I don't want to deny myself one or the other. So I've struck a comfortable balance for me that I know hard work and dedication for 6 months out of the year will get me the financial freedom enough to be able to live a comfortable lifestyle for myself so that I can go and be frivolous. And I can go and travel. So I feel like I'm living the best of both worlds.
Well, yeah, so you come back saying, okay, I'm going to bust my butt for you. I'm going to give you everything I have. I'm going to give you 120%, but I'm leaving at 6 months. And I'm going to rake up as much money as I can so that when I'm here in these places, I am going to live the best life that I can.
Yes, absolutely. I'm going to live my dream because what I've found is with travel, I have something that is the most underrated and something that most people are incapable of being able to identify its value. I got my time back. It's like when I first set out on this travel adventure, you know, and you're going out and you're doing these things and you're not working, I'm in vacation mode. But I've been doing it long enough that I'm no longer in vacation mode and I'm just in living mode. It's not like, you know, Monday I got to do this and Tuesday I got to go see that. And I'm on a schedule to make sure I see every site and every tourist thing. It's like if I want to stay in my pajamas until 11 o'clock, I can do that because that's how I want to spend my time. I'm not in vacation mode when I'm traveling. I want to experience culture. I'm in living mode. I want to experience culture. I want to eat this food. I want to see what happens after rush hour is over. When it's 10 and 11 o'clock in the morning, what does normal life look like for this country, this city, this place? And so I'm not in the, go to this tourist attraction and do this thing and do that thing. I'm just like, what do the locals do? So I found my way of just kind of slowing down and enjoying the fact that I have my time back and I can dictate when I wake up in the morning, how I'm going to spend my day, what I'm going to eat, when I'm going to exercise, what am I going to see. I own my time again. Granted, it's only for about 6 months out of the year because, again, I have to go back into normal society to be able to earn my living to fund this so that I can be able to do it. And there is that balance. There's that balance.
Do you ever think you will find an opportunity where maybe you can do online work and not come back for that 6 months?
Well, I do like the idea of having passive income, something that I don't have to show up in a specific location and do a specific function in order to earn money. I like that concept, but it's still confining to me, and I've had, you know, enough taste of freedom where I don't want those confines a bit.
And this way you get to spend time with your family.
Exactly. But at the same time, I'm also like, I do like the performance aspect of it. I like having goals. I like achieving goals. I like exceeding the expectations of whatever level you think I'm going to, do in achieving goals. There's a part of me, I guess it's the baby boomer part, that likes to say, here's what an employer expects of me, and then I exceed that. I love being the best employee that you have on the job. So I don't mind diving back into that world.
And that is definitely that's the effects of being raised by a baby boomer.
Exactly.
And as a
influence.
This is the influence of being raised by a baby boomer. But then as a Generation X, we got to take responsibility for the millennials because we raised them.
They're my children.
That's right. We raised them, and we was like, you do not have to take this, and they actually believed it. So
Right. And then they don't, but I think what it is the compromise, because here's the thing. So you work a 9-to-5 job, you're working, 50 weeks out of a 52-week year. You get 2 weeks off a year. You're working 5 out of 7 days a week, And so what you get from that is the beautiful homes and, a vacation where you could drop several $1,000s on it. You're getting new vehicles and the latest, technology. But what you're sacrificing is your time. In order to get your time back, then now you're sacrificing some comforts. I look at it as 3 things that you can have in life. You can have safety, you can have comfort, or you can have freedom. And there's a combination where you can only have 2 of those 3 things. And every time you choose 2, you're losing something of that one. So I sacrifice a little bit of safety and comfort for the sake of my freedom. And that's just a personal choice. Some people would choose more safety. Some people would choose more comfort. And so the mix changes. That's why I always say the level that's comfortable for me. I don't mind sleeping on a beach in American Samoa for several days because I can't afford a hotel, and I'll sacrifice some of my safety for that. But I mean, it's a personal choice.
Okay, well, darling, I think we are definitely going to continue this series, and so because I didn't get to ask everything, but
alternatives.
This is all the time we have now. So I want to say this is LaTanya, and I am conducting an interview with a traveler. So we'll see you next time. Bye.